Howdy everybody, this is Omar, your audio amigo, here today with another episode of the Planar Project. Today we're going to be looking at a new planar IEM from HZSound. This is the HZSound Luna. It is a 13mm planar IEM released in August of 2024, not to be confused with the Score Luna, which I reviewed not too long ago, which is also a 13mm planar IEM released in August of 2024, or the Tangem Luna, which is a dongle deck also released in the last month or so. The HZSound Luna comes in at an MSRP of $110, and it's smack dab in the middle of what I think is the most competitive price range for planar IEMs. So, is the Luna a worthy competitor to the rest of the planars in this range? Let's find out. So, we'll get started with the unboxing experience, which honestly feels kind of premium. I did an unboxing short. You can check that out on my channel if you haven't already. But the IEMs come up front and center, already attached to their cable, which is modular, by the way. You get this leatherette carry case that feels, honestly, kind of okay. You can tell this isn't real leather, but honestly, in the hands, it's mostly fine. It has the HZSound logo embossed on it, as well as on the zipper pull. Like I said, it feels fine in the hands. It's kind of nice that it's branded like that. But inside this case, you get this wonderful little ear tip case with the HZSound branding on it as well. It's kind of similar to the one that I use to showcase ear tips, so it's always kind of nice. But inside, you'll find 6 sets of silicone ear tips. You get some wider bore tips up here, and you get some narrower bore ones down here. Inside, you will also find a carabiner for use with the case. You will find the 4.4mm adapter for the modular cable, as well as some replacement filters to keep it going. So that's kind of nice. Overall, I think this is an excellent accessories package for the money. I love the fact that they include the modular terminations. Not everybody does. And I like the inclusion of filters to keep things going. Good job. Moving on to the cable. This is a really nice cable. This is a 2-wire twist, and each wire has 2 conductors, a black one and a white one inside. The wires are rubber coated. It feels good in the hands, doesn't snag on things. The 3.5mm connector has nice HZSound branding on it. And as I mentioned, it's modular, and it's that short modular system that I really like. It doesn't have the really long, cumbersome feeling connectors like on the Zhaoxinwu or the S12 Pro. That being said, there is no branding on the Y-split here. It's kind of small, low-profile Y-split. And the chin slider, I would say, mostly works. You can see how easy it goes up and down in certain situations. On my walks, I did have to pull it back up once or twice, but yeah, it's not the worst chin slider I've used. The 2-pin connectors here are metal, and the ear hooks themselves have this nice rubbery feeling to them. They aren't uncomfortable, but they're not super plush either. The red and blue lines for stereo indications are nice. The radius of the ear hook bend is a little narrow, but again, it's nothing that I had any problems with. All things considered, I think this is a really nice cable. The chin slider is really the only part that I would consider bad. I think that at this price range, this is a pretty good cable. So let's jump into the build quality. So these here are full CNC machined shells with these aluminum and resin faceplates on top. The nozzles are milled as part of the lower shell and are machined into the body of the IEM. There's a recessed metal filter in the nozzles to protect the drivers and provide some tuning. There are also 2 vents here. You have one right there, right above the driver, and the other one sort of over here off to the side. These feel really solid in the hands. They feel nice and good. The resin faceplate, the fact that it's backed by aluminum, is good for durability. I can't see these physically failing in any way in normal use. I think that they're very well built. So let's go ahead and pull up the specifications. I believe these are also using the new 4th generation 13mm planar driver that the Letshuoer S08 and the TinHiFi Dudu are using. All 3 are using the double-sided vapor deposition voice coil on the diaphragm. The shells, despite being all metal, aren't too heavy. Their weight is sort of in line with the other all-metal planars, such as the Dudu and the Zhaoxinwu Heyday. The nozzle isn't gigantic. It shouldn't really cause any discomfort in that way. The impedance and sensitivity mean that you shouldn't need to run out and buy an external amp for these. I was able to run these out of my old Sony X Compact just fine. I would say these are pretty typical specs for a full-range planar. But now it's time for the cool wall. And as I mentioned in my unboxing, I actually really like these. The name combined with the sort of rock geode effect inside the resin top plate made me immediately think of moon rocks. The Overall shape and design is pretty standard, borderline boring, but honestly, as soon as you look at the faceplate, that moonrock design with the chrome detailing surrounding it, I think looks pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and put this in cool. I think that they're really good, especially compared to something a little more boring looking like the Dudu. Uh, Knowing some of the ladies on the council and their penchant for shiny rocks, I think this should do pretty good in their evaluation, but let's see what they think. Well, it's a split, but it's leaning positive, 3-2 in favor of pretty versus not pretty. As far as compliments go, it's again a split 3-2, but this time against giving out compliments if you wear these. So maybe nothing too impressive in terms of looks for these. Let's take a look at their thoughts. It appears I'm not the only one that's thinking of rocks. Overall, I think it's a pretty decent showing in terms of what the ladies think, so good job HZSound on the design of these. Moving on to comfort. Even though these are all metal, my ears didn't really feel the weight at all. I had no major issues with the shell shape, they fit my ears very well. I do prefer a deeper fit, and these nozzles are a tiny bit short for my tastes, but I had no real issues forming or maintaining a seal, no problems keeping them in for long periods of time. I find these quite comfortable. Again, no issues for wearing these for a long period of time or long gaming sessions. As far as my wife's tiny ears tests go, these passed. Mrs. Audio Amigo says that although these shells feel big in her ears, she could form and maintain a seal well with her preferred ear tips, and she was able to wear them for an entire workday without having to take them out for comfort reasons. So, nice work. But all right, let's get into how these sound. We'll get started as usual with the bass. I think these are a really great representation of planar bass in my opinion. This set has good sub-bass response and a really satisfying mid-bass boost. That leads to a rumbly, punchy, articulate bass with really good dynamics. Rick Ross's Hustlin' has some great bass drops in it, and this set makes them sound nice and sharp with good rumble and intensity. As far as bass guitar and kick drums go, the kick drum that serves as the heartbeat in Earth, Wind & Fire's Let's Groove has plenty of energy and punch to it. It asserts itself throughout the replay. It sounds overall really nice. I have zero complaints with this bass presentation as far as I'm concerned. There might be a bit too much energy down here for those who prefer a leaner bass in their songs, but I personally like this amount of bass, especially when you're using a planar driver like this. Mid-range. As is becoming pretty typical for these bass-boosted 13mm planars, the mid-bass boost doesn't affect the tonality of the lower mid-range. Cream's White Room has an excellent vocal tone to it, with easily separated instruments, articulate guitars, and well-rendered distortion pedals on those guitars. Very good performance on that overall. Female vocals are where things start to go a tiny bit wrong. Connie Francis sounds, in my opinion, a bit too nasal in her rendition of the Italian classic Guaglione. It's a shame because her voice typically has this sort of warm character to it, even though she's singing sort of higher in the register. I feel like this set reduces that warmth a bit and replaces it with a bit of that nasaliness. So, overall, the lower mid-range and instrumentation here are pretty good. The female vocals, however, suffer from a bit of that nasal tonality that I don't care for. But all right, we're here at the make or break range for planars, in my opinion, the upper mids and treble. And honestly, I'm a bit sad. Again, this is a planar set with what I would describe as overblown harmonics and upper mids. There's a lot of energy up here. The upper mids are boosted to almost shouty proportions. In fact, shouty proportions, let's just say. The overall treble is overall harsh and shrill, at least to my ears. I don't hate bright or even shouty sets. I've mentioned before I quite like things like the Moondrop Stellaris, but something about where the energy here is being focused on this set just doesn't gel for my ears. The hi-hats in Genesis's That's All come across as ever so slightly sibilant and fatiguing to my ears in a way that honestly just makes me kind of sad. The hi-hat hits seem to have a bit too much wash on them, which is kind of awkward since they're closing the hat at the end of the hit. There's good sparkle here, but it's just too much. And the same goes for female vocals. I can't enjoy the harmonies in Claris's Hitori Goto because the harmonics that they generate sound unnatural. And then you add in the nasal tonality on top of that, and it just doesn't sound right to me. Overall, the upper mids and treble might appeal to some treble heads or people who love that sort of shouty, extra bright, airy tuning, but to me and my ears, this is just a mess. But we'll move on to technicalities. On the low end, the fantastic bass response means that you don't miss any key details. This set passed my Black Cow test with flying colors. You could hear the reverb just fine. You could hear the ringing on the string. It was overall very, very nice, and it was only in one ear, so it's not overblown. On the upper end, you definitely won't miss any details. The tuning on this set will push all of that details right up in your face, front and center. One of my tests for this is the triangle that's being played at the end of the final movement of Respighi's Pines of Rome. The triangle should be distinct and audible in sort of the background along with all of the strings, and it should be very clear. This set pulls it off great. I have, however, heard other planars do a better job with this track and with classical in general, but overall I think the technicalities here are very well done. Stereo separation on this set is pretty good. Buena Vista Social Club's Chan Chan sounds just like it was recorded. All the members in a nice line, each one having their own space, not claustrophobic sounding at all. As far as perceived 3D soundstage goes, the tuning on this set lends itself to a nice 3D effect in well-mastered tracks. I know I use this song all the time, but I think it's a great example of this sort of thing. George Benson's Affirmation, the live version, you can hear the whole band very clearly all around you in this set. This set has overall good stereo separation and a good 3D soundstage. Alright, so time for some comparisons. This is, to my ears, a bright V-shaped set where the bass is trying to balance out the treble with that boost, but doesn't really pull it off in my opinion. Rather than compare it to darker planars that I own, like for example the SO8, and just put it here and say, yeah, the SO8 has all the detail that this has, but with none of the treble fatigue, instead what I'd like to do is talk to you about some of my preferred brighter sounding planar sets, as well as this set's twin, and we'll go ahead and start with that one. This is the TinHiFi Dudu, and I call it the Luna's twin because, well, let's see. Same shape, same overall size, same vents, same nozzle dimensions, extremely similar weight, extremely similar impedance and sensitivity. Yeah, and if all that wasn't enough, they both are bright, fatiguing, shrill, V-shaped, bright planars at similar prices. The Dudu is between $80 and $100 depending on where you shop, and the Luna is either $100 or $110 depending on when you shop. Honestly speaking, in my opinion, the Luna completely beats the Dudu in every way. The bass is better, the treble is ever so slightly less fatiguing on the Dudu, on the Luna. It actually comes with a case, the Dudu doesn't. It comes with a much nicer cable. That cable is modular, and the shells are actually, they actually put some design effort into the shells rather than just leave them plain and Jane. Honestly, if these two existed on the market alone, the Luna would make the Dudu look a little bit silly, and I personally can't imagine anyone picking up the Dudu over the Luna unless the Luna is at full price and the Dudu is on a serious sale. Moving on. We've got my favorite planar IEM for classical, opera, and piano. This is the much maligned Moondrop Stellaris at $110. The Stellaris also has a ton of energy in the upper mids and treble, but for some reason I find this much more palatable than the Luna or the Dudu. I also believe the Stellaris is more detailed with a wider soundstage. It's more resolving, and it's also not as fatiguing, at least to my ears. Yes, the Stellaris is still fatiguing to me, don't get me wrong, but it's not as fatiguing as the Luna or the Dudu for that matter. It works better for my ears as well at lower volumes. I feel like I get more of that detail than these two at lower volumes. The mid-range here is a bit better represented. Where it loses is in the bass. The Luna definitely has better bass response than the Stellaris, but I feel that's the only real area where it beats the Stellaris. It comes with more tip options and a better case. I do prefer the cable on the Luna, but the cable on the Stellaris isn't bad. For classical music, piano, and opera, this is 100% my choice over the other two. Next up, we come to the 7 Hz Dioko. There it is. This is an older set, and it's one of the first planars to come in at or under $100. The Dioko, I feel, is more subdued than the Luna, and to my ears, it's every bit as detailed, if not slightly more so. I think it's probably down to the slightly bigger driver. I personally don't find the Dioko fatiguing like I do the Luna. Again, the Luna definitely wins in the bass department, but the Dioko is cleaner and more neutral sounding, and I feel that it does better with instruments as a whole. The case on the Dioko is comically enormous, and the cable isn't modular, but lately it's been really easy to find this under $100, closer to the $70, $80 range, so it can be a better value if you can score it for less than the Dudu or the Luna. Finally, we have what I feel is the best all-rounder of the group, the Letshuoer S12, currently selling for right around $110. The S12 is what I think of as the grandfather of the V-shaped planar tuning. It's not as bassy as the Luna, but it's not lacking in the bass either, at least to my ears. It has what I feel is just the right amount of upper end energy to give cymbals and harmonics that energetic sparkle that I like. And I feel like it's more resolving in terms of detail than the Luna, again, probably because it's a bigger driver. I personally don't find the S12 fatiguing. I know others do, but I personally don't. And now that the price has come down to make it sort of equal to the Luna, it's a great option, I think. I think it's a better option. The accessories packages are overall similar, but the Luna does have a nicer cable, mostly due to the fact that it's modular, but the S12 does come with foam tips and is a bit more compact in terms of shell size. Overall, if you told me to pick a hyper clear, ultra detailed, high-end tuning, I would pick the Moondrop Stellaris. The Luna is for people who feel like the Stellaris didn't go far enough with the treble details, or they wish the Stellaris had more bass. The S12 is the best all-rounder for basically any genre, and the Dioko is sort of unique as the sort of bright, cheap option with honestly excellent details and resolution for the price. The Dudu, honestly, is just a bit sad now. The Luna essentially makes it irrelevant unless you're extremely budget constrained. It just sounds better, looks nicer, has better accessories, and honestly isn't even that much more expensive compared to the Dudu. Alright, so now that everyone else is gone, let's see where the Luna ranks on my Audio Amigo arbitrary rating scale. This, as I said, sounds to me like a slightly bassier, slightly less fatiguing TinHiFi Dudu. It comes in a much better looking box with better accessories and a really nice modular cable. At the end of the day, though, I had a similar listening experience on this as I did to the Dudu. There were songs that I played on this that made me want to put it up in But I Like This or even Good, and there were other songs that made me just want to put it in the trash. Classical music, piano, and sort of other things of that nature were the strong suits for this set, just like the Dudu. And just like the Dudu, I feel like you can fix a lot of the issues that this has with EQ or some light modding. So that being said, I'm going to put this set in meh right next to its spiritual brother, the Dudu. It does sound slightly better than the Dudu, but it costs more. And I will say that the Dudu absolutely needs to stay at $80 for the foreseeable future, because if it loses that sale price and jumps up to $100, the fact that the Luna even exists at $110 might knock the Dudu down into the trash tier. But back to the Luna. It makes the same mistake, in my opinion, in tuning that the Dudu made. As far as I'm concerned, you don't need to boost the upper mids and treble on a planar driver to this level to get them to sound sparkly and detailed and resolving. The S12 and the Dioko aren't fatiguing to me, but I know they are to some people. And even with that less fatiguing tuning compared to the Luna, or fatiguing tuning for some people, these two sets, to my ears, are more detailed and resolving than the Luna. So, do I recommend these? Unfortunately, like with the Dudu, I'm going to have to say no. This is not exactly what I would call an all-rounder set. It's, in my opinion, more of a specialist set. It's in a group that I'm going to call the polarizing planars. Why? Because they have what is, in my opinion, an unnecessary amount of treble energy on them. The Dudu, the Luna, and the Stellaris all fall into this new category. I feel like they are people out there who will really like this tuning. But amongst these three, I personally feel like the Stellaris is on a different level in terms of driver quality and overall detail compared to the other two. So really, I can only recommend this to two groups of people. First, those who want an extremely bright planar with excellent bass presentation. And second, modders who will take this set, stuff it with mesh, filters, and foam, and make this match their personal taste. Outside of that group, this is the exact same cost as the Stellaris. Just get the Stellaris. I feel like it's better overall at what this does best. And the Dudu, like I said, it's honestly a little bit sad. Well, that's going to do it for me today. I reviewed 2 out of the 3 Lunas that launched this month. Don't expect me to review the Tangentium one. I don't really do DAC amp reviews, at least not right now. If that's something you'd be interested in, let me know down in the comments. I'll start buying a couple of them. But yeah, of the 2 Lunas I reviewed, one was really good. The other one was a disappointment. But, that's just the way life is. I would be interested to try out some of HZSound's other products. The Heart Mirror Pro seems to get a lot of love from people. Maybe I'll try and pick one of those up on the secondhand market or something. But that's it for the moment. As always, I really appreciate all of your support. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been Omar with Audio Amigo Reviews. I will catch y'all next time.